This is Report to Wyoming.
In this episode, I'm talking to the event organizer of Candlelight Frights, who goes by his stage name, Azriel Anthony. My first question was how Candlelight Frights got started.
You know, it really happened for me during COVID. I was at home and, during time, I had found a bunch of social media posts that had a bunch of historical Halloween costumes. If you go to our website, folkhalloween.com, and go to the costumes page or our homepage, you can kind of look at some of the images that I gathered. And as I did that, I really started to just visually understand that we lost a tremendous folk art as Halloween got commercialized, as we got busy and started buying our costumes. First of all, like I just visually understood, that you couldn't run out to Walmart or order your costume at Amazon or Spirit Halloween. You basically had to look at the materials that you had available. You might have some newspaper and some flour, so paper mache was big. You might have some chicken wire. You might have, some old clothes. And so you had to make a costume with found materials. And then when I just started seeing the tremendous creativity of all of those people featured in those photographs, I started realizing that really Halloween used to be a communal affair, a real communal event, where whether it was your own family or the kids on your block in a neighborhood, or if you grew up on a farm, the neighboring farm kids and you probably talked about what you were imagining for the year before. You probably got excited and bounced ideas off each other and compared and contrasted. And so, when I think about America and the America, I was born in the late 70s, grew up in the 80s. It feels like, when I was a kid, we all had that sense of American exceptionalism, that we, were profoundly innovative. And, I really started to wonder if there's a connection between our losing that communal folk art of creating together that we used to do together, all over this country. Before the internet, it's just something that everybody did together, as Halloween got commercialized and we forgot about it. So then I started reading a number of books, and I believe I read 6 different books and took a great many notes. And, I started encountering all these traditions that, for example, we may do the things like wear costumes and make masks. We can apple bob or might go trick-or-treating, but few remember where those traditions came from. And so, for example, like apple bobbing, I found out that, most people have actually bobbed for apples in their lives, or at least familiar with that tradition. But, we've forgotten why we ever did it. It's fun and games. It's a game. We did it because it was fun. But what most people never learned, and many don't know, is that original tradition was if you successfully got an apple, if you bobbed for it, it was supposed to be an omen that you were going to have good luck in the coming year. And then we weren't supposed to eat the apple either. You're supposed to take the apple on Halloween at midnight and sleep with it under your pillow. And that night you're supposed to dream of your true love or your soulmate. And then you weren't even supposed to eat it till the morning. You were supposed to pick the seeds, and there were various traditions around those seeds. One tradition had it that you counted the number of seeds, and it would tell you the number of children you would have. And then there were various Victorian-era rhymes where you would count the seeds, and there were other seed traditions, which, if you come to a folk Halloween experience, it's not us talking at you. You're doing things. And there are actors in period costume, in character, representing the different time periods that these traditions came from, who will be asking you questions, and you'll be interacting with them while a murder mystery is happening. Mm-hmm. And so there are literally dozens of traditions like that that we've forgotten. And so, and for people who came in 2022 and 2023, while we'll always have the core traditions, apple bobbing is a part of Halloween. But there will always be new traditions, so it's never going to be the same experience twice, because there are dozens of traditions we have to draw on. And there's a rich repertoire of traditions we've forgotten.
This is the 3rd year you guys are putting on something for Halloween?
Correct.
Okay. And it's an immersive experience. There's so many different offerings. So let's kind of describe for people all the things going on.
Perfect. Yeah, so there is a lot going on, and it can be a little confusing. So a folk Halloween experience, is, all of those folk traditions that are packaged. And you're going to experience those traditions at both of our shows. We're running 4 nights only, and it is our last year in Wyoming. And so those are going to be Friday and Saturday, October 25th and 26th, and Friday and Saturday, October 18th and 19th, the 2 weekends before Halloween. We have 2 shows a night. We call the earlier show the early experience, and those are timed entries between 6 to 7 p.m. It is a little cheaper at $20, and that's the family-friendly show. The VIP experience is the later show, and those are the timed entry times between 9 to 10 p.m., and that is a little more expensive at $30 a ticket. And there are 3 premium experiences that we call the Voyage into Victorian Spiritualism, where you learn about Victorian-era spiritual beliefs and practices, and in particular, those involve the tools and practices of Victorian spiritualism, which is a learning interactive demonstration where you learn about spiritualism in the Victorian era, where these beliefs came from. You learn a little bit of history, but it is a learning interactive demonstration where you learn about tasseomancy or tea leaf reading, chiromancy or palm reading, and cartomancy or, for example, tarot cards or Lenormand. And basically, those are just learning interactive demonstrations. So you're, again, not being talked to, but basically you're doing the things while you're learning about them. And then at midnight, there's the dumb supper. And there's a little bit of a misnomer to that. People hear supper and they think it's a meal, but it is what it was called. And so it is a Victorian-era tradition. So what would happen is you would attend a Halloween party, and at midnight you observe a moment of a moment of silence for wandering spirits, and then you take a bite of your dumb cake. And after you take that bite of your dumb cake, you exit the venue in reverse. For those coming to the late experience, we like to remind them that, you should not drive home in reverse unless you'd like to visit with the Casper Police Department, the Mills Police Department, or Ventura County Sheriff's Office. But when you get home, some people may choose to do this on the night of their experience. Others may wait until Halloween proper. But at midnight, you should wrap that up, the remainders after another bite, in a handkerchief or, a Ziploc bag and put it under your pillow. And that night, you're supposed to dream of your true love. And then the third experience that you get with the VIP experience, which is adultier and a little darker, is after midnight Halloween spirit mediumship demonstration. And so, for people who might be afraid that's dark and spooky, these are just, immersive living history, essentially interactive demonstrations where you learn about things that are just kind of fascinating and weird and kitschy and cool. So that explains a folk Halloween experience. You still get all the same traditions with both. I should tell your listeners that some of the best time slots for the the VIP experience are starting to sell out. And what I mean is, we do still have tickets available, but like say on Saturday, October 19th, the 9 p.m. time slot has sold out. Now, if that's the only time that'll work for you to go, then you can always, when you come up on our waiting list to purchase a ticket, and you'll get an email. I should tell people some of those are going to spam or promotions folders, so keep an eye on those. And you should also get a text, which some of those have also been going to a spam folder. But when you come up on the ticket waiting list, if that's the only time that'll work, you could join the waiting list for the 9 p.m. slot. We are considering opening up a few more tickets, but we are staggering entry, and that's why we do have timed entry, so we don't end up with lines, and that's really to preserve guest experience. Now, there are 2 add-ons, and those 2 add-ons, pay homage to a mid-century Halloween party invitation tradition, where what would happen is in late September, early October, you'd get a knock on your door, and you would answer your door, and you would find a candle burning on your doorstep. And underneath the candle, you would find clues that you would have to decipher in order to uncover a secret summoning location. Now, you wouldn't know who had invited you. You wouldn't know where the party was. But in order to even find out, you'd have to decipher those clues. And if you were unsuccessful in deciphering those clues, you weren't going to be able to go to the party. And let's say you were successful in deciphering those clues. Well, now you have to meet your masked host at this secret summoning location. Unless you could make out by their size or their voice, you still didn't even know who this person was. And with their finger to the lips, they would swear you to silence and guide you by candlelit procession to the haunted halls where the revelry would be taking place, instructing you on superstitions around Halloween that we've forgotten. And so this is a 1940s to 1960s tradition. And so to pay homage to that, the Path of Mystery is sort of a treasure hunt across town where you solve escape room style clues. For example, you'll learn how to do a Playfair cipher, and that was used in the Revolutionary War and the Civil War. And so you'll have to decipher clues, and as you do that, if you successfully complete the Path of Mystery, that gets you the second add-on free, which is the After Dark Superstition Walk. With that, you'll get a little amber jar and an LED votive candle, and you'll also get a beeswax candle to take home. And then you will, when summoned on the night of your experience, you will go on a little candlelit walk where you're instructed about those Halloween superstitions. For example, if you catch a falling leaf on Halloween, it's good luck. Okay. So those are the add-ons, and so there's the VIP and the early experience. And again, that's 4 nights only. But then we actually have some allied sort of events happening in town to support community. Our mission is to restore creativity and community to our celebration of Halloween. And we call the kind of second half of that the Casper Heritage Harvest Festival. We've had free mask-making workshops. Our next one is actually going to be at the Science Zone. It's called the Science of Papier-Mâché Mask Making, and it's going to be on Thursday, October 10th, and Thursday, October 17th from 4 to 6. So you sign up for both, and the links for that are on our website at Folk Halloween. But basically, once you've, the idea is you come to these workshops, we teach you how to do papier-mâché masks, we take your vision and idea and help you make it a reality. You'll give you ideas so that you can make your costume. And then with that costume that you've made, you'll attend our event. And then every night at every show, people do vote for best costume, scariest costume, most original costume. To be part of the contest, you do have to make your own. And if you don't want to come to a workshop or registration fills up or you're unable to due to work, we do have some DIY resources on our website so you can do that at home. Now, you don't have to make your costume to come, of course. You can purchase a costume. You could even come plain clothes. But I can't guarantee you that the night hag who has a sharp tongue won't dress you down if you come plain clothed. But yeah, you can come as you are anyway. But if you do want to take part in that contest, you do have to make your own, and we still have that mask making workshop. So that's the restoring creativity side of our mission. But the other side is restoring community to our celebration of Halloween. And so last year, we did have one thing, which you interviewed some of our cast members about, which was the ghost hunt of the Elks Club. And then, of course, Theater of the Poor, another one of our creative community partners, was actually showing a play called The Lesson. So if you wanted to purchase tickets to any of those, you could bundle and save and get 20% off. This year we're doing the same. The events that are involved so far, the first one, and this is super convenient, and I guess the first thing to tell people about is we've got like this trunk or treat it's with the Casper Ghostbusters and the Oil City Car Club. Now, the admission is technically free, but we are asking people to bring canned food, canned goods as admission in order to support the Wyoming Food for Thought project. So that is a charitable event. The Casper Ghostbusters will be there with their Ectomobile for pictures. That runs on Friday, October 18th from 4:30 to 7:30, weather permitting. So if there's a blizzard, it'll be canceled. But as long as the weather's good, we are going to have that event from 4:30 to 7:30. And so come get some free candy with your little ones. And then, especially for people who come to that, I'd recommend that afterwards they come to the early experience with all the folk traditions. It is family friendly. Those are 6 to 7 entry times for us. And then after you're done with that, it's like one stop, you can do everything. And that leads me to the second event. The Platte Ridge Company, who has, in years past, they are the historical reenactors who've done, the Fort Casper ghost tours, and also Casper Collins Days. This year, they're working with us at the Isaac Walton Clubhouse, which is just behind Fort Casper on the grounds of the Fort Casper Campground. And they will be doing ghost tours of the Old West. Those tours run from 6 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. And they're running on all the nights that we're running. So that's Friday, October 18th and 19th, and then Friday and Saturday, October 25th and 26th. So you can come do a folk Halloween experience, not have to go anywhere else, and also do ghost tours of the Old West. And to help people know what they can experience with that is it's not just going to be learning about the most famous hauntings and ghosts in Natrona County and in Casper, but Nick Skalicki with the Platte Ridge Company has written a script this year about the most famous hauntings all across Wyoming. And that's why we're calling it Ghost Tours of the Old West. We're still waiting for some confirmation, but it does look like we may have cowboy action shooters involved. I'm not 100% on that. But so essentially you can come to a folk Halloween experience. You could do the early experience if you want the more family-friendly thing and go to, then learn about famous hauntings in Wyoming with a ghost tour of the Old West after, or do that vice versa. But you do have to purchase tickets separately. And if you bundle, like you come to a folk Halloween experience and then you do ghost tours of the Old West, you don't have to leave, right? Everything is right there. You get 20% off both tickets. Information is on our website at folkhalloween.com, and it's the Casper Heritage Harvest Festival. And the last thing that's affiliated with us this year, thanks to the sponsorship of Theater of the Poor and the generous sponsorship of the Elks Club and the Casper Elks, is that Peter McDaniels and his Ghostbusters team is going to do another ghost hunt at the Elks Club. And that's going to be Thursday, October 24th, Saturday, October 26th, and Sunday, October 27th. And now that's offsite at the Elks Club. There are 2 shows a night, one at 6 o'clock and one at 9 o'clock. And we do ask people at that early show to plan to stay late for an hour, and people that come to that later show to come early for an hour and meet at the Elks Club bar to have a cocktail or beer or soda to patronize the Elks Club and thank them for opening their doors and letting these ghost hunts happen a second year in a row. Now, proceeds from the ghost tours of the Old West and the Elks Club Ghost Hunt, 100% of them go to support the National Historic Trail Center Foundation. So those are also charitable events.
And
that's a lot.
That is a lot. So I'm so glad you were able to touch on all those things. Of course, again, go to the website if you're interested in any or all of this, because it can be, I shouldn't say confusing, but there is one thing I appreciate is how much work you've put into it and so many different offerings. How did you become so passionate about the traditions of Halloween?
That's a good question. As a kid, I don't know what it is. Just from the time I was born, and I will tell you, my mom and her sister, my cousin and I were born 9 days apart. And so from the time we were probably 2 or 3 years old, we were being taken trick-or-treating. We always, had costumes, and they made a big deal out of it. A couple times growing up, my mother had thrown a Halloween party, for some of my classmates in school. And it's funny because sometimes when I run into those people many years later, that's the first thing they remember about me is how big and how hard we went for those Halloween parties. So I've always just loved Halloween. And I think, I definitely knew that I did have some Irish and Scottish ancestry, but I hadn't done the genealogy and hadn't authentically understood my own ancestry very well until really quite recently. And when I finally did do an Ancestry.com DNA test, I was shocked to find out I'm a quarter Scottish. So I've just always loved Halloween. And I think for me, what it is it's the one night a year. I mean, people can be so cruel to each other. People can be so judgmental. And, for me, and I think I can speak for most of our cast members, this is a time when you come together as a community where you can be who you are or anybody that you want to be. And so it's just always been a time for there to be a lot of fun and to have a good time with your loved ones. And I guess that's kind of a good segue to motivation for all the things that we're doing right now when I say that our mission is to restore creativity and community to our celebration of Halloween. I'll say that, everybody who came last year, I wish I had a video camera this year. We're planning on it. But as they leave, I ask them, so what do you think and what was your favorite part? We had about 70 people come last year, and we had a number of people, shockingly, who came from places like Sheridan or Gillette or Riverton or just, nearby. They actually traveled here for this. And, 100% of people who went said that, hands down, that a folk Halloween experience was the coolest thing that they've ever done for Halloween in their entire life. Everybody said that. But about half of the guests said that, not only was it the coolest thing they've ever done for Halloween, they actually said that it was one of the coolest things they've ever done in their whole lives. And I think part of the reason for that is that, we're more connected than we've ever been, right? We've got smartphones, the internet, yada, yada. And the bottom line is we're more disconnected than ever, right? Like all the old things that those of us who are a little older might remember, skips at summer camp, actually interacting with people, playing games, especially for young people, a lot of people have never experienced anything like this in their whole lives. And so I think, a lot of the people who are telling us it's one of the coolest things that they've ever done in their entire lives, they just have never had any experience of something that's interactive and engaging and fun and silly in that kind of way with sort of in-person immersive living history theater. The last thing I'll say about that is that we did have some people, we can't remember where they're from. We're pretty sure it was Riverton. And they told us that they are such Halloween diehards that they've actually traveled to Anoka, Minnesota, the proclaimed capital of Halloween in the United States. They traveled to Salem, Massachusetts, and they've traveled to New Orleans, Louisiana for Halloween. And we think this is probably the best review we got last year. They said they've traveled, they've taken time off from work to go to these places, and they told us that we do what they experienced with us in 2023 was more fun, more fascinating, more engaging, and better than anything that they did in any of those places at Halloween. So, we know we've done something, pretty amazing. By the end of the night, body language at the beginning of the night, people aren't quite sure what to expect. They kind of have that standoffish stand, their arms are crossed. They may have a scowl on their face. But by the end of the night, everybody's inner child has come out, and it's just pure magic. It's a lot of fun. So, some people have some misconceptions or misunderstandings about what this is. And really what it is just a celebration of our ancient, classic, vintage Halloween traditions. So what you're going to do is you're going to explore traditions from a bygone era. You're going to learn about things that you and most people never knew we used to do. Then you're going to reconnect with the meaning behind popular Halloween activities, right? So everybody does costumes and masks and goes trick-or-treating and might do apple bobbing, but nobody knows where those traditions came from. And of course, most importantly, you're going to be able to celebrate a more authentic Halloween and celebrate Halloween the way it was meant to be experienced. So there's lots of Halloween parties. There's lots of haunted houses. There are a lot of Halloween-themed things, but for a more authentic Halloween experience, we encourage you to help us exhume from the grave, the old ways, the way that we used to do things, the way that your ancestors experienced Halloween. And most people who've done that with us say it really is a lot of fun.
Oh, okay. I just have one more question left. Sorry, I've taken up so much of your lunch break.
No, please.
I definitely think of all the plastic and the materialism that goes along with Halloween and a lot of our holidays, unfortunately. How have you learned so much about these old traditions?
Yeah, that's a really darn good question, Colby. I'll tell you, like I told you during COVID, I read several books on Halloween history and traditions. Diane Arkins has some great books. Ruth Kelly wrote the book on Halloween. It's called The Book of Halloween. And she did pretty amazing for somebody in the, I believe, if I remember, she was writing in the 19-teens. So before the internet, like what was then known. There are some falsehoods in her book. And in fact, so for me, it was really important for me. I'm a stickler for tradition. I'm a stickler for detail. And, that we do things, properly. And so sometimes when you would read different sources, you would find contradictions. And so what I did, especially last summer, if you're really bored and you want to spend some time, look at our website, folkhalloween.com, and look at the Halloween history links. There's a page where we talk about our logo and the history that is iconically represented in our logo, because there's a lot of meaning in it. But we tell you a lot of Halloween history that way. And then there's another page on the website on Halloween history and prehistory. So that all began, and that was less about learning the traditions, because those were the books that I read during COVID. But this was more about really trying to make sure that we authentically and correctly understood the history, because if you go online and you start searching and you start trying to understand, what's the origin of Halloween? Where's the birthplace of Halloween? For example, I found out that there are 6 different cultural hearths for Halloween. There's actually 6 different locations in Ireland where they actually all claim to be the birthplace of Halloween. And so, it's probably not unlike Wyoming. Cody, Wyoming claims it's the place, where Buffalo Bill Cody's buried, although we're pretty sure he is buried in Colorado, or Sacagawea, on the Wind River Reservation. So maybe those things are about tourism. Maybe the truth is stranger than fiction. Maybe those urban legends, or maybe there's truth to them. We may never know. But what I'll say is it probably has a lot to do with tourism. And so when you've got 6 competing claims about the origin or birthplace of Halloween, and you're wanting to iconically represent that place in your logo, well, you got to figure out where it probably actually began. And so that led me down a rabbit hole, and I must have probably spent about, probably no exaggeration, at least a couple thousand hours doing my best to look at archaeology journals, to look at history journals, to look at books and sort of investigate, the differences between all of those sources. And I have arrived at the conclusion that the true birthplace of our Samhain or Halloween traditions in Ireland is the Coile Cloghane Stone Circle in County Cavan, Ireland. And, it is recorded in the analytic sources from the medieval period that St. Patrick destroyed Crom's cult there at the Coile Cloghane Stone Circle in Ireland. And that what I think happened is that Halloween then moved to Clacta Hill, Ringfort, and a number of other sites, Tara Hill in the Boyne Valley, in the Valley of the High Princes or High Irish Kings. So I do believe these other places are birthplaces of Halloween, but after extensive, exhaustive research, I feel very confident that our traditions really started at the Coile Cloghane Stone Circle with the Crom hero head cult icon at its center that was destroyed by St. Patrick and the early Roman Catholics in Ireland, and then it moved from there to these other places where those traditions continued and survived and came to us in the modern era. So if you check out those links on our website, you'll see the attention to detail that has gone into everything that we have done here. And if you're a history buff or you love live performance or theater, it'll be your last chance in Wyoming to come check it out. So I highly encourage you. Tickets are selling out for our best times right now to please join us. And I would commend to you go ahead and buy a ticket to a ghost tour of the Old West or an Elks Club ghost hunt. 100% of your proceeds will go to support local historic awareness and preservation through the National Historic Trail Center.
This has been Report to Wyoming, presented in the public interest by Town Square Media.